Unity pluribus unum, from many, one. In varietatis concordia, united in diversity. Those were the mottos of the United States and the European Union respectively, and they both share a common theme: harmony. A harmony of voices, a harmony of opinions, a harmony of ideas that come together to form a united society. But in today's fractured political landscape, that seems further from the truth than ever. It's as if we can't come to a consensus on anything, and every time we try to have a discussion, it boils down to a shouting match. We're at a point in history where, due to technology, our world is growing smaller by the day, and yet a polarizing wave has accompanied the globalizing one, creating a tsunami of confusion and uncertainty, resulting in the collapse of public discourse. It is this collapse that then leads to the political division in our society today. It all starts with our consumption of information. With the number of news channels increasing, the rise of tailored news designed to appeal to niche markets, is also present. That and the introduction of social media, making it easier than ever to share false stories, means we're all living in our own bubbles of confirmational bias, which results in disagreement and thus division. Now I'm going to be using the US as a case study, but it's important to remember this is reflective of a much larger problem. Here's a graphic published in Pew Research Center, observing partisan bias in the US public. As time goes on, we become more divided. This is because we are all receiving different information and the data conflicts. We don't even have a platform on which to discuss ideas because they're all based off of different facts and figures. And if we can't discuss ideas, it makes sense that we can't come to a consensus. I'm about to show you another visual published in PLOS One by a group of researchers. It shows the connectivity in the House of Representatives. Each dot represents a House member, and each gray line between two represents a time when the pair agreed in voting. The thicker the line, the more they agreed. Here's a visual from 1951. And here's the same visual 60 years later from 2011. And here's the process by which that happened. To be completely frank, this looks more like mitosis, that a branch of government responsible for legislation affecting hundreds of millions of lives. And now we have what's called an us versus them mindset, a mindset detrimental to unity. And just like the Athenians and the Spartans, the British and the French, and FC Zurich and FC Basel, there is nothing left to do but fight. One of the ways lawmakers can do this is by using what's called a filibuster. It's a tactic in which a vote on a bill is delayed so long past the allocated time period that one can't even be held. Examples include Huey Long of Louisiana, who in 1935 spoke for 15 and a half hours about recipes for salads and oysters. Or when in 2016, the South Korean MP set a combined world record at 192 hours by reading George Orwell's 1984. It's not exactly the dialogue we want. Here's a graph showing the usage of the filibuster in Congress by looking at the number of cloture motions filed. Now, for those of you who, like me, are not political scientists, let me simplify this for you. It is not supposed to look like that. We're not even willing to entertain the possibility of a different outlook. Instead of using different perspectives to our advantage, we're allowing it to divide us, and our division is counterproductive. All because we can't have a real debate, something that's at the heart and soul of a democracy. So what is a real debate? Well, let me start from the very beginning. Ever since I was a little boy, my dad has always been against tutoring. Instead of telling me the answers to my questions, he would show me, guide me on how to find them myself. He would always say, Ankit, it's great to want to learn, but it's even more important that you learn how to learn. What my dad was trying to teach me was how to question things and seek an understanding. He was actually introducing me to the core principles of debate. Now, for me, debate just started off as having discussions with people about issues that were important to little old me. Bedtime with my parents, for example. But this passion started to grow, and I began to discuss issues in contemporary politics. For me, It was the ultimate form of education because my beliefs were constantly challenged and evolving because of it. To learn how to debate was to learn how to learn. So I began to pursue it at a higher level. I joined clubs at school. I began to learn the different styles of academic and political debate. I was taught the 3 pillars of persuasion are ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethics, emotion, and logic. First, establish your credibility, then inform them with facts, and finally, if necessary, make an appeal from the heart. I was coached in the art of debate. But I also picked up on tactics and strategies purely designed to help me win. For example, always talk to the chair and audience with respect. Be just a little bit condescending towards your opponents. You might hear honorable chairs, esteemed guests, mistaken opposition. I wouldn't even call them opponents because I wanted to strip them of all humanity. Why? Well, to annoy them, to anger them, making them more vulnerable to mistakes I could latch onto to win. Now, I do martial arts, and I found this tactic very similar to one I'd use during a fight. Jab at your opponent till they come out swinging and eventually make a mistake. And the more I thought about it, the more I noticed these striking parallels between the two. In one, I was coached to attack, defend, find weaknesses, and exploit them. And in the other, I was coached to, well, attack, defend, find weaknesses, and exploit them. But debate, in its purest form, should be about achieving understanding or agreement, not alienation. Unlike fighting, you either both win or you both lose. It's not a zero-sum game. But today, more often than not, we are choosing to both lose. Now, why is this the case? Well, it all boils down to that drive to win, the thirst for victory. Now, this mentality works fine in competitive debate situations because that's what competitions are for, to prove you're the champion. It's when we bring that mentality over to politics that we begin to see the issues. Because unlike competitions, the end goal is not to win, it's to make our society better. But when you watch politicians debate on TV, there's no form of compromise or problem solving, and at that point, even calling them presidential or parliamentary debates is a misnomer. They're really just different rallies happening simultaneously. Now, I'm 15, started my first year in high school, and people my age are growing up in a polarized world, thinking it's natural just because we don't agree on certain issues. But unity doesn't come when everyone agrees. That's just oppression. It comes when people disagree and yet are still able to find solutions. We're growing up with argument, not debate. And there is a fundamental difference between the two. Arguing is about me winning. Debate is about us winning. It's a method through which we can find common goals and strive for them together rather than against each other. It's the gateway to cooperation. Now, there are a lot of things that are happening, and calling debate the gateway to cooperation isn't exactly intuitive. So let me tell you what the key, I believe, is to such a productive debate. Now, most people know their own stance on the topic very well, but productive debaters also know the opposing viewpoint just as well. A strategy, an exercise I like to do is to debate from the other side. Find their arguments and try to rebuttal my own. Don't just open yourself up to the possibility of being wrong, actively try to prove it. You may surprise yourself, and if not, at least you're more open-minded and empathetic than before. You understand where they're coming from, making an agreement more likely. Imagine a world in which every debate had a purpose, where you could walk out of all of them and say, you know what? I think I learned something, and maybe even taught them a thing or two. Personally, I also think it would be awesome to see politicians debate for the other side for once. Can you picture someone like Barack Obama debating for less gun control? Or Theresa May for no Brexit? Or perhaps yourself against an issue you feel strongly about? It may seem counterintuitive to suggest debate as the antidote to divide, but that's exactly what we need. We need to stop arguing and start debating, to break down the walls we have spent so long building to enable us to exist in harmony. Thank you.